Let's talk about your foundation real quick before I get into Instagram questions. Now Wahine Toa Foundation. What was the inspiration behind that?
Yep. So right when I won the belt, well, actually it was prior to winning the belt, I worked with a nonprofit called Native Like Water up in San Diego, and they were focused on, indigenous knowledge, Native education, cultural exchange programs. So I was a mentor for the kids in that program. And one time I went to Panama to go visit and spend time with the indigenous tribes out there. So anyway, we went to go visit the Emberakera, which is like deep in the Panama jungle. And the founder of the nonprofit, Mark Chavez, he was like, yeah, I would love for the chief's daughter to attend one of our programs, but, they can't afford it. And he was just talking about it. And I was like, well, how much would it cost to send her to a program? So he gave me the number, and I was just like, well, I'll tell you what. If I ever fight for the belt and I win, then I'm going to use my win bonus to fly her to San Diego. And it was really crazy because we were in the jungle, so we don't have any service or anything. We get back to the city, and this is so randomly timed, serendipitous, but we get back to the city, I get service, and my manager calls me, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, Bellator just called, you're going to fight for the belt in November. I'm like, oh, all right. Well,
let's go.
Okay, let's go. And so, I fought for the belt, won, and I hit up Mark. It was like, okay, how do we make this happen? And Mark was like, okay, well, why don't we start a scholarship for her and for other Native girls, that way you're not just, here's some money. So I'm like, okay, cool. So that's when we started collaborating, starting this scholarship. And I was able to award multiple scholarships that year. And then it was also, that was right around the time that the missing and murdered Indigenous women epidemic started gaining more awareness on social media. So it's a hashtag MMIW. And this epidemic is basically Native women are disposable and they are disappearing. They're being murdered. Native women actually face higher rates of violence out of any other demographic. And so right around this time, I was like, dude, this is crazy. I've never heard of this before. But it directly does affect me because it actually holds true for Native Hawaiian girls as well. So that's when we started brainstorming, and he's like, I think this might be the time to create your own nonprofit because this is going to be what your legacy is post-fighting. So I'm like, okay. So I always credit Uncle Mark for, guiding me through this process. But that's when I started the foundation, Na Wahine Toa, which, I translate to women warriors. And the more research I started doing into violence against women and everything, the more I realized that it goes so deep. It goes back all the way to colonization and everything. And it also, it's not just about self-defense and knowing how to fight back, because that's what I do. I teach seminars, self-defense seminars, But 80% of violence against women is actually perpetrated by somebody that they know. So it's not necessarily stranger danger.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. It's intimate partner violence. It's people, it's acquaintances, it's family, unfortunately, it's people you think you can trust. And so I started putting on retreats for survivors and for Native women and girls here in Hawaii. It's healing, and we come together, and it's an intercultural exchange, an intergenerational exchange, and that's how it all started.
That's amazing. What was the response from everybody when you first started it?
It was super positive, and I really have not had any negative. And if there is any negativity about it, I haven't seen it. But I really have had such positive response to it because this is an invisible crisis that a lot of people don't know, and that's what I actually really love about speaking on these issues, and even the romanticization of Hawaii and everything. Like, I get so many messages from people saying, I never knew this. Like, wow, we thought Hawaii was this paradise. We never knew anything.
Exactly.
And so I'm, again, very positive response to everything that I fight for. And the timing, again, there's been like many serendipitous things about this fight in particular when it comes to MMIW and survivors.
Definitely. And, you know, going off of that, a lot of people don't know that Hawaii is one of the highest rates, or maybe even the highest rates of child trafficking.
Yes.
Human trafficking. In Keaukaha.
Yep.
Where,
yes.
you know, on the Big Island where I'm from. And I had no idea until my sister-in-law started to share that about us and with us. And if you would never expect it, right? It's such a homey town. And, you know, there was that one news story, I think it was last year, where that girl disappeared for a while. They found her at Cafe Pesto or something. And it was her uncle or something. Yeah. Right? Like you said, somebody that you know.
Yeah. And it's you know, it's a combination of things why Hawaii is such a hotspot for it. But, you know, not only is our geographical location, you know, we're right there in the, you know, between Asia and continental US, you know, we're right there. So it's easy for people to just disappear. And on top of that, we can directly link sex trafficking of Native Hawaiian girls to the tourism and the military industry. So there's like a crazy number that Hawaii actually has more, I guess you call them sex sites, like massage parlors, strip clubs, stuff like that. So, like sites that have the potential to be like a
front,
or like a sex trafficking site. Hawaii has more than Las Vegas, and so it's just insane numbers that people really had no idea about. There was a really good report that was recently released that collected data and did research. It was actually created by the women. They put together a task force for this, and they just released it, I think, last month or so. And we're working on the second half of the report. But it was crazy. You know, looking at the numbers and, again, the invisible crisis and the average missing child here in Hawaii is a 15-year-old Native Hawaiian girl that goes missing from Oahu.
Where do they go? Like, is it so? I'm just trying to understand this. So, when you say like child trafficking, they're being kidnapped, or are they like being
they
exposed,
could be kidnapped,
like
they could be sex trafficked, they could be working in the sex industry, or they could entirely disappear.
And that all falls in the one category.
Yes.
Okay. And so how do these people go unnoticed? Because I feel like it's such a small community. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, we have a lot of land. Maybe they go out into the, you know, rural areas, or maybe it's like they're just hiding right under our nose. Like,
absolutely.
So, like, do we know the answer?
I'm not sure, but I do know that, again, the military industry is directly tied to it. In fact, like there was literally just a Navy prosecutor, something like last week during fight week, a Navy prosecutor here in Hawaii just got arrested. His job was to go after predators. And he ended up being a predator himself and was like soliciting minors. And so I do know that a lot actually sex trafficking and underage of minors like goes on in the bases. And the women that put together this research, Kara Kaniala's wife, she was one of them. She was like one of the leaders. Dr. Nikki Cristobal from Kauai, she put together, she kind of like spearheaded this whole thing. And so if you are interested in the report, you can find it on OHA website.
Okay.
But it's everything's connected. You know, and that's why I say my foundation, like the treatment of the land goes hand in hand with the treatment of women. of Native women.